Yee-haw! Howdy, partners. Frankie here, New West Reset. Welcome back. Thank you very much for shooting in, joining a fella here for another one. Another live one, as a matter of fact. New West Reset Live, episode 127. Here today, we're going to be looking at the Big Four. That's what they call them around these here parts, the Big Four. The robber barons of the Old West, the financiers of the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede. The big rodeo up here. That's right. Thank you for joining me here. Thanks for winding down your weekend. Sunday, July 6th, 2025. Just a little wee bit, just a horsehair past 5 p.m. local time, mountain time. Because as always, of course, we're coming at you live from the foothills of the Canadian Rockies here, where the prairies meet the mountains. Southwestern Alberta, Calgary, Alberta, Purdy, Alberta. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're going to be looking at so we're going to examine the cattle barons who funded the first Calgary Stampede rodeo way back in 1912. The first official where they kicked it off and like, okay, there's going to be a done deal in the same place, the same time every year. Prior to that, it was kind of sporadic. We'll get into that. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Beautiful day today. Beautiful day. Partly sunny because, we've had some showers and some thunderstorms. But still 20 degrees Celsius right now. It's like 52-ish. Give or take, Fahrenheit. Birds are chirping. Bit of a breeze. It's nice. It's nice. Way better than down in Texas. Woo-wee, the Guadalupe River was angry. Be careful down there. God bless all you folks down in Texas with that terrible flooding. Flash flooding. Because, it's kind of the high desert in that area, apparently. I don't know. I'm not from Texas. I told you I'm from Purdy, Alberta. It's a Canadian version of Texas, basically, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway. That sandy ground, the water just shoots over that. And you go from, your river could be 3 feet deep to 23 feet deep in a few hours. That happens at night while you're sawing logs. It's rough. It's a rough go. So yeah, bless those folks on there. Be careful out there, everybody. Careful now. Speaking of everyone, how's everyone doing? Say hello in the box, in the chat. Let me know how you're doing. Who's here? What's happening? What's going on, baby? Al is here. Al Triano, welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for shooting in. Hippie Shake in the box. Howdy, Hippie. Hello, hello. Howdy, y'all. Howdy, Kathy. Kimmy. Kimmy is here. Happy Stampede. Well, happy Stampede to you as well. Much obliged, pard. Much obliged. What else we got here? Turtle. That's who. Turtle. Hey, guy on a horse. Turtle's here. There's a guy on a horse out there. Stampede, don't you know? Greatest outdoor show on earth, according to Guy Wiedeck, the guy who organized the whole dang thing, apparently. We'll get into that, too. Water the tree. Hello, hello, welcome. From Kansas City, Missouri. Is that right? Kansas City, Missouri? I like to try to say it right now, too. I don't say Missouri. I try to say Missouri now. Missouri. Like folk from Missouri would say Missouri. I don't know. Anyways, hello, hello. Welcome. Howdy, Pastor. Pasture of Castles in the box. Channel Fitty Trees here. Hello, howdy, welcome. Humid AF in Iowa. Get a lot of rain. Yeah, you'd be getting some rain. You'd be getting rain, same as we be getting rain. It's not that far, you know. It's east, but, you know, Saskatchewan, Manitoba-ish. East of here, anyway. Not misery. No, that's a whole different thing. I wouldn't call it that. You can if you want, but I wouldn't. Oh, boy. Here we go. Kansas City, Missouri, also known as Cowtown, if I remember correctly. You had mentioned that. Is that right? Huh. There was another place, too, that somebody jumped in and said, yeah, over here, too. I'm like, hold on a second now. That's Calgary's thing. We're Cowtown. Also Sandstone City. But that's because of all the old world sandstone buildings. People are like, wait, what? How can it be Cowboyville, Cowtown, and Sandstone City at the same time? Anyway, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it, as always. It's Sunday Fun Day, so we're going to have a good time with this one. Woo! Woo! If you haven't already, give a guy one of these. Just helps to push me out into the thing, you know, and do all the other things. Greatly appreciated. Welcome to everybody on the HooTubes and the Bumble, broadcasting simultaneously live over on the Green Fighting platform, Rumble there, as well as here on the YouTube. Links below for everything we're going to cover, as well as BitChute, MeWe, the guy's email. You want to send me some old photos or something? Cool. Love to see them. Or if you just want to say, howdy, partner. My location map is down there as well. Link for that. And PayPal. If you'd be so kind, that's greatly appreciated. Not necessary, but greatly appreciated. Hey, buddy. There he is. Wollongong is a whole lot of bull. Oh, there. The cow and bull puns are going to be kicking it off right away. You're going to have cow and bull puns, horse puns, all the barnyard and rodeo animal puns.
Horse shit!
Good to see you, buddy. Baja is here. Welcome. Hello. Old World Mi'kmaq in the box. Quay, Nidap. Hello. Welcome. All right, enough messing around. We've got a lot to cover here now. So thanks for joining me. We'll look into some of the four of the big four. They don't have a lot of the bios on the Wikipedia. If you're new to the channel, first of all, thank you very much. Welcome. If you're watching this after the fact, after the live, really appreciate all your support as well. And speaking of Wikipedia and links below for all of that, and if you're new here, I use Wikipedia because it's a normie reference, right? Who's going to get up off their duff and go to the library these days? And even still, you know, it's going to be tainted and peppered with half-truths. But most folks just, you know, look it up. And that's usually the first, if not second thing that comes up. So it is what it is. Plus, it's good for shits and giggles. Let's face it. So we'll start with just a real quick here on the Stampede itself. So a lot of people, when they think Canada, they probably don't necessarily think rodeo. And if they do, they're probably thinking something like this. don't go lying now. I know that's what you were picturing when I said Canadian rodeo. But no, here we go. According to the Wikipedia, the Calgary Stampede. It's an annual rodeo exhibition and festival held every July, Calgary, Alberta, Canada land. The 10-day event, which bills itself as the greatest outdoor show on earth, attracts over 1 million visitors per year. It features one of the world's largest rodeos. Also has a parade, midway, stage shows, concerts, the usual fair stuff, right? Agricultural competitions, chuck wagon racing. That's right, chuck wagon racing. Now, again, you're going to think I'm reading your mind because you're going to be saying to yourself, Frankie, come on, man. We heard about these covered wagons crossing the open plains. It was a nightmare. It took them like 3 months to get from, the western banks of the Mississippi. That's right. I like to say Mississippi properly as well. The Mississippi. To the Colorado Rockies or whatever, right? People dropping like flies along the way. But, yeah, so I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking when you're thinking chuck wagon. You're thinking probably, But it's already gone off the rails here. But believe you me, nothing more exciting than the chuck wagon races. The bull riding is pretty good. I mean, let's face it, it's rodeo, man. It's not exactly boring. Hey, look, there's a cowboy or cowgirl on an angry 1,000+ pound animal. Let's see what happens. But anyways, the parade, chuck wagon racing, First Nations exhibitions. In 2008, the Calgary Stampede was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Took them long enough. The event's roots are traced to 1886, when the Calgary District Agricultural Society held its first fair. In 1912, the American promoter Guy Wiedeck, he was a Yankee, organized his first rodeo and festival known as the Stampede. He returned to Calgary in 1919 to organize the Victory Stampede in honor of soldiers returning from WW1. It became an annual event eventually in 1923. Oh, was that late? Oh, all right. I stand correct. See, I don't even know. And I dig it, man. I dig the whole rodeo cowboy thing. I'm wearing my hat right now. You can't see it. But here, there it is. Howdy, welcome. So the event's roots, okay. So it merged with the Calgary Industrial Exhibition to create the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede. Also, prior to that, there was two separate things, and they joined forces. Organized by thousands of volunteers and supported by civic leaders, the Calgary Stampede has grown into one of the world's richest rodeos, one of Canada's largest festivals, and a significant tourist attraction for the city. Rodeo and chuck wagon racing events are televised across Canada land. However, both have been the target of increasing international criticism by animal welfare groups and politicians concerned about particular events, as well as animal rights, yada yada, ban the rodeo. Look, I love animals as much as anybody. And do horses and cattle get injured during the rodeo? Yeah. Not by the hundreds, not even by the dozens. But it happens. Sometimes they're just injured badly and they need to be euthanized. Sometimes they are killed there. It's not the best. But that's amongst hundreds and thousands of horses and steers, bulls, angry bulls. These creatures are bred on ranches south of the city for the Stampede. They're given the best diets. They're babied. I've toured that place. You should try and go back there, by the way. It's not an old place, but it's an interesting place. Anyways, they're babied. We should all be babied and coddled and fed and sheltered. As some people are living out rough in the streets. These horses get brushed and blankets. Yeah. It's like training camp for livestock. It's crazy. Anyway. Calgary's national and international identity is tied to the event. It's known as Stampede City. Well, there's like our third nickname now. Carries the informal nickname of Cowtown. There it is. And the local Canadian Football League team is called the Stampeders. That's right. City takes on a party atmosphere during Stampede. It's kind of like Mardi Gras, but with Roy Rogers. If you get what I'm saying. Office buildings and storefronts are painted in cowboy themes. Residents don Western wear. Yep. And events held across the city include hundreds of pancake breakfasts and barbecue served out of the back of one of them chuck wagons. So the society itself, I stuttered there. The society itself formed in 1884. Just for giggles here, I'm just going to cross-reference what the population was of Calgary. In 1891, it was 3,000 people. I know in 1880, I used to have it, I believe in 1886, it was 500-ish people. But that includes not only the people that are living in the town, but, all the ranchers and farmers that live in that same district. Anyways, a lot of people, and already they're forming all these societies, eh? They want to promote the town, encourage farmers and ranchers from Eastern Canada to move west. And this is even pre-railroad, so that's a tough go. So they held their first fair 2 years later by attracting a quarter of the town's 2,000 residents. Okay, so they're saying by 1886, there was 4,000 people. That doesn't seem right. It does not seem correct. According to Wikipedia itself, 1901, there was 4,000 people. 1891, there was 3,000 and change. Bolstering the numbers or fudging the numbers a little bit. I'm shocked. Are you shocked? I'm completely and utterly shocked.
I don't believe you.
Anyways, by 1889, acquired land on the banks of the Elbow River, where it is to this day, to host the exhibitions. But crop failures, poor weather, and declining economy resulted in the society ceasing operations in 1895. That doesn't bode well when the Agricultural Society folds up shop. Agriculturally, we're not doing so hot here. It's not the best. Meanwhile, they spent the last decade trying to attract farmers and ranchers to fill up all the buildings you found and spruced up, perhaps. The land passed briefly to future Prime Minister R.B. Bennett, who sold it to the city of Calgary by then. The area was called Victoria Park after Queen Victoria. Oh, lovely! What an absolute lovely tribute to us, your true royal monarch, Queen Victoria. And the newly formed Western Pacific Exhibition Company hosted its first agricultural and industrial fair in 1899. So then it grows. This Guy Wiedeck fella comes along. He was a trick roper. he comes up here and he's like, wow, I like all this ranch stuff. There's like, it's kind of like the real Wild West up here still. So he wants to put together this stampede, this rodeo exhibition. You know, bronco busters and trick ropers, trick shooters, indigenous First Nations tribal chiefs with their tribe or clan performing everything, but not in a Wild Bill Cody or whatever, Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show kind of a way. I wanted to have it more to, I don't know, preserve the real Wild West. Anyways, they get into all of that. Link below for that. I'm not going to go too much in the article because I want to look into some of these here fellas. These big four guys. Let's get that up for you. So the big four for Calgary, there's the program and I guess poster for the 1912 Stampede. The big four were the wealthy Alberta cattlemen, Patrick Burns, George Lane, A.E. Cross, and Archibald J. McLean. Oops, excuse me. Archibald J. McLean, eh? Guy's not Scottish at all. Eh? What do you think? Anyways, together they founded the Calgary Stampede as well as other cultural and entrepreneurial activities in Calgary, Alberta, Canada land in the early years of the 20th century. George Lane and A.J. McLean were ranchers. Pat Burns owned a meat packing business, and A.E. Cross was a brewery owner. All four men were involved in Alberta's cattle industry. So in the summer of 1912, the big four were approached by cowboy Guy Wiedeck with the proposal for a Wild West show that would make Buffalo Bill's Wild West extravaganza look like a sideshow. Each put up $25,000 to finance the first Calgary Stampede held in September 1912. The event has grown since to more than $1.8 million. Oh, that's Canadian dollars, so maybe 1.5 US in prize money, and attracts more than 1 million visitors yearly. The Big Four building, Stampede Grounds in Calgary, was named for the four businessmen and once held the largest curling rink in the world. See, every city has got to have at least a couple of claims to fame. I talked about this in the last episode of the Knucklehead show that I did with Chris, as always, our friend, Chris from Old World Exploration. Another show coming up soon, by the way. We're going to be doing Ottawa, the nation's capital. So keep your ocular sphericals locked on to the channel for that, do all the things to get the notifications that you won't actually get. But I talked about that. Every city's got to have one or two, maybe three things that it's super famous for. Everything else becomes vague or becomes a haunted. That house is haunted, or that building is haunted, or that spooky old hotel is haunted, something like that. You really got to dig to find out that, for some reason, they had to regrade and put viaducts on the, 6 streets in the downtown of the city. You're like, but everybody in the city forgot about it. So there's all these underground passages and floors with shop fronts under there, like the Seattle Underground and all that, right? And many other places. London. Probably more than we even know about still. But anyway. Mr. Beast Fan snuck in the box. Hello. Hello. Howdy, howdy. Anyway, so it gets a little bit more into these guys. So, yeah, let's see here. Let's start with Patrick Burns here, shall we? Good old Pat Burns. Look at this beady-eyed bugger. The big toe head on him. Anyways, Patrick Burns was a Canadian rancher, meat packer, business person, just say businessman, senator, and philanthropist. A self-made man of wealth, he built one of the world's largest integrated meatpacking empires, P. Burns and Company, becoming one of the wealthiest Canadians of his time. He's honored as one of the big four Western cattle kings who started the Calgary Stampede in Alberta in 1912. He made his fortune in the meat industry, but ranching was his true passion. Burns' 700,000 acres, or almost 3,000 square kilometers, or kilometers if you like, of cattle ranches covered so vast an area of southern Alberta that he boasted about being able to travel from Cochrane to the U.S. border without ever leaving his land. Today, that's a 2.5, 3-ish, depending on traffic, hour drive south from Cochrane to the U.S. border by car, going 60 miles an hour, well, between 50 and 60 miles per hour, 80 to 90, 100 kilometers per hour-ish. It's a lot of land. It's a lot of land. Wow. In 1931, he was appointed to the Canadian Senate as a representative for Alberta. On October 16th, 2008, the Calgary Herald named Burns as Alberta's greatest citizen. That's the big highfalutin newspaper here. So he was born in Oshawa. Speaking of Ottawa, different, but same, but different. Ontario. He was the fourth of 11 children. Wow. Spent his last summer in Kirkfield chopping wood for a neighbor. Didn't save money to travel out west. Came time for him to collect his pay. He discovered his employer did not have enough cash to cover the $100 he was owed for his labor, so was instead given 2 oxen as payment. They had a resale value of $70, but he saw an alternative. He made $140 by slaughtering the animals and reselling their meat as byproducts. That experience is one that he would remember when he was an entrepreneur. Oh, sure. This idea just popped into his head magically out of the blue, like a stroke of luck, like a bolt of luck. Wood. Maybe he got dehydrated and he was starting to get delusional. I don't know. Anyways, not a bad idea, kid. I guess. With his brothers John and Dominic in 78, that's 1878, y'all. He headed out west at the age of 22, started out by steamer, but when they reached Rat Portage, feared if he paid for transportation the rest of the way, he might lack funds on his arrival. So undaunted, he bought some bread and cheese, and with his gun for protection, he walked the rest of the way to Winnipeg. Walked the rest of the way. It's tough to say. That's a long walk. Rat Portage. Kenora. That's in Ontario still. It's close to Manitoba. It's 129 miles or 210 clicks. 130 miles basically, or 210 clicks. This guy walked it. Yeah, sure, it's fine. I got cheese and bread. I'll be good. Got water? Water? I don't need water. I got cheese. Man, if you just eat cheese and just walk, man, don't drink any water, you're going to be in some trouble, son. You can't do that. Can't do that. Anyway. Seems a little bit, I don't know. PCS World in the Box. Howdy, welcome. Good to see you. Channel 53 says, I'm a hick, and this one is absurd. If I miss a live, I'm in jail. Woo! Okay. No, we don't want you. We don't want you locked up now. Come on now. Don't be saying that. Yikes. Still trying to wrap my head around this guy walking that many miles. It's just, yeah, like I got some bread and cheese and my gun. I'll be fine. What about bears and wolves and quote unquote wild Indians, like, non-friendly indigenous peoples that are starting to see a lot more white folk, in the 1870s coming in and around there. And they're like, hold on a second. Is this one of those guys that's going to start building these towns around here? Get out of here, man. This is crazy. Anyways, he and John, impressed by the reports of good lands to the west, decided to take advantage of the Canadian Dominion Lands Act of 1872. That's where the Hudson's Bay Company had to turn over all of its land back over to Canada, or to the Crown, which sold it to Canada, but sold it to itself because the Crown still owned it technically. One hand washes the other. But anyways, they set out on foot to locate their homesteads and walked another 160 miles or 260 kilometers till they found land to their liking just east of Minnedosa, Manitoba. Ooh, look at that place. Very nice. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Oh, shit!
That's all I can say. All I can say. Burns continued to homestead in Manitoba. After the Louis Riel Rebellion, gradually became involved in buying cattle and selling meat. Began a meatpacking career with a cow he bought on credit and sold for $4. Sure. He began freighting goods from Winnipeg and driving his neighbor's cattle to the Winnipeg market. By 1885, he was buying and selling his own cattle. Next thing you know, he moves to Alberta. Opens a slaughterhouse meatpacking here in Calgary, then Vancouver, then Edmonton. Edmonton's the capital. Vancouver's the biggest city west of Winnipeg. But no, Calgary in 1890. Shy of 4,000 people. Do you live in a town of 4,000 people? Do you have a big, massive, huge factory or processing plant, a Coca-Cola plant, a Valvoline oil bottling facility, I don't know, something? Let me know. Leave me a comment. A western prairie town now. That's the narrative. Cowboys and ranchers and whatnot. I haven't even really struck oil out here yet. Railroad has just barely arrived. A town of 4,000 people. He skips. He eventually Vancouver, but Calgary first. I don't know. It's crazy. But anyways, he turned around to ranching on a large scale and acquired large tracts of land. His company, P. Burns and Company, later Burns Foods, they make pretty good hot dogs or wieners. Became Western Canada's largest meatpacking company. The grand opening of the second abattoir in 1899, the first had burned down. Calgary Herald described the event as passing of yet another milestone on the road to Calgary's full measure of prosperity. Yes, the Great Calgary Fire. That's 1886. Burned 9, 10, 11, 12-ish buildings, depending on which source you use. Somewhere in there, somewhere between 9 and a dozen. So then he gets married. Then in 1912, he gets together with some of his buddies and they arrange $100,000 worth of financing. Greatest outdoor show on earth. Burns then personally owned 6 ranches with 38,000 head of cattle, 1,500 horses, and 20,000 sheep. His company, Burns Foods, had abattoirs. Am I even saying that correctly? I don't know. In Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Prince Albert, and Regina, with an overall daily capacity of over 1,000 cattle. 6,000 pigs, 3,000 sheep. They were the utmost sanitation and technically advanced to a level previously unseen in Western Canada. Facilities were eventually opened in Winnipeg, Seattle, Australia, down under there, mate. Crikey. Do you hear that, Vaughn, mate? Down there. And of course, Great Britain. And I say that's you must. It's for the greater good of the Commonwealth, you see. Burns was able to revolutionize the slaughterhouse industry. This is kind of morbid but fascinating. By emphasizing efficiency in the use of byproducts. Traditionally, much have been lost to waste, but with his advanced laboratories, Burns expanded the list of recoverable products that included leather, fats for soap, bone for bone meal, and manufactured for articles, fertilizer, glycerin, hair for brushes, and even an array of pharmaceuticals. Burns joked that the only product not recovered from the pigs were the squeals, which could have been sold to politicians. Oh. And he opens up in British Columbia. Train going by. Appropriate, because here they're talking about the Grand Trunk Pacific Railway, precursor to the Canadian Pacific Railway. Bow Valley Ranch. Bow Valley Farm became functional headquarters of his cattle empire. Burns purchased the ranch in 2002 from William Roper Ho. Really, a cowboy named Roper. Take off. A cowboy named Roper. I
like your style, dude.
Oh, well, I dig your style too, man. Got a whole cowboy thing going.
Thank you.
He also acquired adjacent sections of land as they became available, or did he just have the folks there run it off? RUNOFT, runned off. Eventually, the Burns Ranch at Bow Valley included some 20,000 acres, 81 square kilometers, bounded on the north by what is now Stampede Park. Yeah, we couldn't go any further. He couldn't buy up anymore. The Stampede already owned that land. Ah, shucks. On the east by the Bow River, well, there's that. On the south by 146th Avenue. Wow, they already were that far out with the sprawl. In 2002, eh? On the west by McLeod Trail. Large property by any standards, but only a small segment of his ranching empire. The farm was an ideal location with respect to the Burns family meatpacking plant. Many large cattle drives were brought to the site where the animals were bedded, fed, watered, and rested before being herded to the stockyards. Burns frequently offered the hospitality of the ranch to distinguished people visiting the Calgary area. Come by my smelly-ass cattle ranch as my guest. We'll have tea. It's a very impressive ranch house, though. Looking a lot more old world with a lot of techie doodabs on it. There's old Pat Burns himself, I reckon. Hull was responsible for building the natural brick two-story Bow Valley Ranch house, which was said to be the finest country home in the territories. Yeah, no shit. Can a dummy in the box? Mr. Roper's not going to put up with any shenanigans. No. No shenanigans allowed.
Shenanigans.
Absolutely not. Anyways, goes on to a bunch of other stuff with Mr. Burns. Excellent, Smithers. Who was this other bub? This George Lane guy. What's he all about? A boot. Rocking a mustache, so I'll tell you what. George Lane, politician. He was an American-born Canadian politician. Okay. Where was he born? Boonville, Iowa. Is it Daniel Boone? Daniel Boone was from Kentucky. Or is that Davy Crockett? I'm getting my American folklore mixed up. You know, the buckskin with the fringe jacket and the coonskin cap. Oh, wait, that's both of them guys, too. I'm just a very sheltered and ignorant Canadian. Anyways, he was a politician and rancher, known as one of the Big Four who helped found the Stampede. Yep, he was inducted into the Hall of Great Westerners, the National Cowboy and Heritage Museum. Huh. Where's that? In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Oh, boy, howdy. He was foreman at the Bayou Ranch and eventually returned in the early 1900s to purchase it for $250,000. Where did this guy get $250 million? He was a foreman and eventually returned. Doesn't say anything about when he left, where he left to. He just showed up with a cool $500,000, did he? Howdy, partner there, bud? How's she going there, partner? I'm just gonna buy this whole up here, bud? What do you think, partner? The other guy was, no, take off. And so he just waved a cool $250,000 cash money, folding money, under this guy's schnoz, and I guess sure. In 1919, he hosted Edward VIII, then Prince of Wales, during his royal tour of Canada land on Edward's behalf. He purchased the neighboring EP Ranch. In 1885, he married Elizabeth. In 1913 Alberta general election, Lane was elected as the first member of the Bow Valley riding for the Alberta Liberal Party. Somewhat of a star candidate for the Liberal Party, he defeated Conservative incumbent Harold Riley, who changed from the Gleason district, thereby helping keep a critical southern, yada, yada, yada. And that's pretty much it for that fella. It's very vague in here, isn't it? Like, here's a cool $250,000 for your ranch. I went away, but I came back. No, where'd you go? How'd you do? Where'd you get the cash? Oh, what are you supposed to say? Oh, I won it at the casino, sir, Mr. Customs Agent, sir. Casino. All right, let's look at the last guy, then we'll take a mid-show break. And of course, as per usual, normally we give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek, but I don't want to spoiler it. So instead, we'll have a look at some vintage footage, but it'll be original stuff. Anyways, this is the last guy. A.E. Cross, I think was his name. Again, links below. Wikipedia. Alfred Ernest Cross. He was a Canadian politician, rancher, and brewer. Known as one of the Big Four. Founded the Stampede in 1912. Sure, okay, there you go. Born in Montreal, Quebec. Cross was the oldest of 7 children. He trained as a veterinary surgeon. He moved to Alberta in 1884. What would possess him? There was like 500 folks, as I said, roughly, give or take, to work at a ranch near what is now Cochrane, Alberta. That's about a 45-minute drive today in a car, so half a day by horse. Owned by Matthew Henry Cochrane. Oh, look at the chops on this chap. He's definitely Scottish. Matthew Henry Cochrane, aye, you can bet I'm Scottish. In 1899, he married Helen Rothney MacLeod. Ah, of course. Daughter of Northwest Mounted Police Commissioner Colonel James MacLeod, who gave Calgary its name. This guy just slid right in like Flynn, not a worry, not a care in the world. Huh? 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 Huh. You don't say. Howdy, Chassie. Chassie Nix in the box. To see ya. Hello, hello. All right. This guy's just for like connected, right? Instantly, he's connected. By 1886, Cross owned his own ranch, the A7 Ranch, spelled with an E to try to make A7 sound fancy, and failing miserably. Located near what is now Nanton, Alberta. Hey, been there, did a mudflood walkabout tour of Nanton with Cousin Vinny. That's right. Cross returned to Montreal for hospital treatment for appendicitis. What, you couldn't go to Edmonton or Calgary or Winnipeg or Toronto? You had to go all the way back to Montreal. You pass through so many big cities to the east of Calgary before you get to Montreal. In and around the late 1880s, early 19, like the train just got going. Like just. Cross returned, yeah, okay. And then he returned to Calgary in 1891, holding a diploma. He had been trained as a brewer's apprentice. I thought you went there for appendicitis. Comes back with a brewer's license, established Calgary Brewing and Malting Company, the first brewery in what was then the Northwest Territories. Yeah, before Alberta was called Alberta, it's part of the Northwest Territories. Same as Northern Saskatchewan. Southern Saskatchewan was Assiniboia. How fun to say is that? Even its former name is fun to say. Ranchmen's Club. That same year, Calgary's oldest and most exclusive club, the Ranchmen's Club, was established, and A.E. Cross was a founding member. 1891. What was the population of Calgary in 1891 again? Oh, yeah. 3,800 and some people. In 1898, he entered politics and was elected member of Legislative Assembly for East Calgary. He was active in community affairs, serving as director and president of Calgary General Hospital. This guy's a brewer and a vet, and now he's in charge of the hospital, of which he had to, earlier for appendicitis, he couldn't go to a hospital in Calgary. He had to go to Montreal. He's got very discerning taste in hospitals, I guess. I don't know, man. I just do not understand. Help me. He's also president of the Alberta Exhibition Association and was the president of the Calgary Board of Trade, now Calgary Chamber of Commerce, in 1909. So he was president of the Alberta Exhibition Association. Was that the one that went belly up? In the summer of 1912, Cross, along with the other three, put up combined $100,000 to finance the first Calgary Stampede held in September 1912. He passed in 1932. A.E. Cross Junior High School, dedicated in his name. It's in Calgary. And the Big Four building. That's it. That is it. That's all you get, bub. That's all you get. Should have done more, I guess. It slid right. You can tell by the look on this guy. He's very weaselly. You just know this guy's going to weasel himself in right good there, eh, bud? Very weaselly. Doesn't look much like a Wild West rancher, the first brewer, it's like a pioneer, right? This would qualify as the pioneer narrative or story, right?
Let me ask you something. How come you asking so many jackassy questions?
Just curious, man. I'm just curious. Kathy says that dude looks slimy. Yeah, look at his eyes. His eyes are worrisome. Let's look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. Oh, they won't let us zoom in any. Come on, man. Come on, man. We really wanted to zoom in on them beady eyes. Oh, well, it is what it is. He was born in Montreal. And he passed somewhere in Alberta. They don't say where. He just passed March 10th, 1932. It's somewhere in Alberta. Alberta's the size of Texas. That's big. Where? Nope, we're not telling you. We won't say. You ain't going to know. You ain't going to know. Old Archie. I don't know. Oh, yeah, we're also known for our wrestling. We're known for our cattle wrestling and our wrestling. The beavers and maple syrup. And rodeos, if you didn't know. Anyways, where are we at here? Coming up on an hour. 13 of you watching. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you winding down your weekend here. It's yours truly. We're having a look at the history of one of the world's biggest rodeos, the greatest outdoor show on earth, the Calgary Stampede. The four founders, the robber barons of the Old West, the cattle and land barons, just coming up here with big sweaty wads of cash in their hand. They're just forking it over and scooping up land left, right, center, buying up ranches, other ranches, probably shooing people off of their land and probably messing with the indigenous peoples. One guy had, like a big chunk of southern Alberta with thousands and thousands of heads of cattle, horses, sheep. You name it, he's got it. I bet you he had a donkey, at least one donkey. Yeah, Pincher Creek. Yeah, way down there. Been there. Anyways, we've done a couple of shows, a couple of live shows on the Calgary Stampede. I do one every year. I dig the rodeo. I like it. I'm an Easterner, so coming out here, with the whole cowboy and Indian and Wild West and the pioneers of the frontier, that whole narrative was huge, Saskatchewan, Alberta, just as much as it was in, Oklahoma or Wyoming or, insert state name here in the U.S., the Great Plains or up here, what we call the prairies. The grain belt, the last vestiges of the Wild West. Yee-haw! Speaking of which, I'm going to take a mid-show break. Again, as a reminder, or if you're new to the channel, usually every Sunday I give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek vintage footage video. I like to find old-timey footage, edit some music to it. I try to keep it Canadian. That comes up on a Wednesday, and I show it on the Sunday show. But it's a special one coming up this Wednesday. It's going to be a premiere. It's going to be a longer show. I'm going to be in the box, in the chat with you, and we'll watch it together. It's an old tourism photo, really focused on Calgary and the Calgary Stampede. And it's from 1962, I believe. So I don't want to spoil that. So instead, I got something else here. This is a real cowboy that worked on real cattle and horse ranches here in Alberta, close to Calgary. He's basically a Calgarian. He was a cowboy in the Calgary Stampede, but he also recorded what you would call at the time Western swing, the precursor to country music, like cowboy songs and, Western swing music back in the 30s and whatnot. And his name is Wilf Carter. And he recorded it in the States as well as Montana Slim. So I've got some old-timey Calgary Stampede footage and some old-timey Calgary Stampede music by a real cowboy, a real singing cowboy. So this is footage from 1923. What are we looking at here? I believe it's about, yeah, just over 3.5 minutes. This is from 1923 Calgary Stampede. This is when it first merged together with the exhibition and became a full-fledged annual thing. It's a done deal. And as mentioned, just over 3.5 minutes. So stick around. We'll see you on the other side of 3.5. Hey, you know what? Put your ear goggles on. And if you like a little bit of the old-timey country and western twangy stuff, smoke them if you got them. Turn it up to 11. And enjoy it. Yeah. All right. We'll see you on the other side. Cheers.
Yo, lady, oh, little old lady, oh, little old lady, oh, little lady. Ah, little old lady, oh, little old lady, oh, little old lady, oh, little lady. We're a-heading for the roundup, going to the big stampede. Old Dick Cosgrove riding in the lead. The old chuck wagon rattling, the snorting bucking broncs. We're a-heading for the Calgary Stampede. Get around the old chuck wagon and get yourself some grub. Flip them flapjacks over in the pan. Old Jim Ross the cookie, he sure can throw her up. Well, his chuck is good enough for any man. Oh, we're a jolly bunch of cowboys, we hope you are the same. We have no cares, the laws we never heed. Gather in the circle and sing this roundup song. We're heading for the Calgary Stampede. Ah-dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lay. Ah-dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lay. The bucking broncs are snorting and cowboys riding high. Longhorns pawing up the big corral, a-waiting for the battle and a bellerin' in the chutes, and cowboys yelling, ride 'em to their pal. The guy that rode old Steamboat, Jack Manley is his name, a better pal a cowboy never knew. The way that guy could toss a rope, he'd take a leading hand, and if you're stuck, he'd always see you through. Ah-dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lay. Ah-dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lo-da-lay, oh, dee-da-lay. Pick yourself a sweetheart and join the cowboy ball. Oh, huck 'em up and give 'em all a whirl. Whoopee! Oh, ask 'em how they'd like the life of a cookin' on a ranch, and tell 'em all you wish they were your gal. Oh, we're a jolly bunch of cowboys, we hope you are the same. We have no cares, the laws we never heed. Oh, gather in the circle and sing our roundup song. We're heading for the Calgary Stampede. Ah-dee-da-lo-da-day, oh, dee-da-lo-da-day, oh, dee-da-lo-da-day, oh, dee-da-lo-da-day. Ah-dee-da-lo-da-day, oh, dee-da-lo-da-day, oh, dee-da-lo-da-day, oh, dee-da-lo-da-day.
All right, and we are back. Howdy, partner. Welcome back. Frankie here, New West Reset, New West Reset Live, episode 127. The Big Four, robber barons of the Old West. Top half of the show, we looked at the big money makers and movers and shakers that put up the big bucks for the first official annual Calgary exhibition and Stampede. A little bit of Mardi Gras, a little bit of Wild West with some P.T. Barnum sprinkled on top, I guess. Anyway, thank you for joining me here. Thanks for winding down your weekend here with yours truly. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already, help a fella out and do one of these. Thanks to everybody who's already shared and subscribed. Thank you for all your support to all of you who are watching this after the live. And howdy to everybody here in the box. Chassis Nix is here. Hippie Shake in the box as well. Howdy, Hippie. Canna Dummy is here. How you doing? A cowpoke is a rancher with a hard on. There you, yeah. Boom. There it is, right there. It kind of sort of caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie.
I'm wetting my jockeys here.
But that is a good one. Vaughn's here as well. Howdy, Vaughn. Title's here. Hello, Title. Channel 53 in the box. How you doing? Baja is here. If it's not, that's right. If it's not Scottish, it's crap. Absolutely. Good to see all of you. Thanks for shooting in. Water the trees here as well. Where are you? I saw you. I saw you there. It's starting to rain outside, I think. I can hear the raindrops in the window. Great. You never know. The interwebs might decide to go for a walk because apparently, even though they've upgraded everything, it's, doesn't like the rain, I guess. I don't know. It's supposed to be this new upgrade. Apparently, it's great. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I thought we'd look at some old photographs of the Calgary Stampede grounds, the rodeo grounds. Us locals, us Calgarians, we just call them the grounds, eh? Let's go to the grounds. You going to the grounds this year? Hell yeah, I'm going to the grounds, bud. Come on, eh? Are you crazy? Or hell no, I ain't going to the grounds this year. I stay as far away from that shit as I can. It's one way. It's a 50-50 pretty much straight down the middle with Calgarians. If you're new to the city, if you just moved here from who knows where, then yeah, you'll go a few times, because it's like, oh, whoopee, it's a big party. It's like Mardi Gras, but with cowboy hats and cowboy boots and country music. And that's really the only part I can do without. I'm a big country music fan, per se, despite the vintage footage music. But he's a Calgary cowboy, man. And I got one of his old-timey 78 RPM, old-timey fast-spinning shellac platter records right here. That's how much I dig the fact that was a real cowboy. Amongst some, that's my cowboy belt right there. It's my belt buckle, my cowboy belt, my belt buckle. You got to have a big belt buckle, at least for the Stampede. Now, I'm not a real cowboy. I always kind of thought, look, if you ain't a real cowboy, you probably shouldn't dress as a real cowboy because the real cowboy will probably give you an ass whooping. Right? Then I remembered that they don't give it cultural appropriation. What's that mean? I have no idea what you're talking about, bub. Now, do you want a shot of whiskey or what? Now get out of my way, will you? I'm going to do some two-stepping. It's a big thing up here. And I know what you're thinking. I know totally what you're thinking. You're thinking Canadian rodeos? That doesn't make any sense. You're picturing this, aren't you? All right. All right. Enough of that. I know you are, though. You can't fool me. Anyways, I thought we'd take a look at not so much at photos of those big four guys, because who cares? But look at the rodeo grounds themselves. Some of the interesting buildings that, well, in some cases up till fairly recently, were still there, although a lot of them were gone by the first official annual exhibition and stampede in the 20s. But prior to that, these magnificent old structures were all over the place. But I don't want to let the cat out of the bag here. Let's just get to it and have a look at some old photos here. It's not a huge folder. I'd say probably a couple of dozen photos. Start off with this guy. This is Guy Wiedeck himself, the guy who started the whole thing. Guy Wiedeck with his, that's more than a 10-gallon hat. That's a big hat, Hoss. It's not like he was a tiny fellow either. He was kind of an average sized, 5'10", 6-foot kind of a fella. That's a big ass hat, son. Man, oh man, that's like a 12-gallon hat. Organizer and manager of the Stampede, Calgary, Alberta, 1912 official photo. So-and-so, somebody of Calgary. All right, there you go. It's now in the Glenbow Museum here in Calgary. And I suspect, a fella's going to go on ahead and just make a guess here now that this here is the old City Hall. So I love the juxtaposition of the cowboy on his horse, all ready to go. Well, the bow tie's a little much, but okay, anyway. But then, the automobiles and the big, magnificent old world stone structure in the background. Because you think there would be a wooden building, like a Clint Eastwood movie or whatever. Now, here's an aerial taken of the Stampede rodeo grounds themselves from 1924. It's a very distinguished, you have to excuse the pixelation here, but this is the track, the racetrack, and this is the rodeo, the infield, where they have the bronco and the bull riding and whatnot, the grandstand, and then some of the cheap seats, and so on and so forth. But it has a very distinct, this is all the rodeo grounds here from this train line and this river and this river. Now it definitely has a distinct, is it me? Does it have a distinct shape? Well, howdy. Dragon Sage in the box. Good to see you. Good to see you. No worries, man. Just kick back and relax, and we're looking at old-timey cowboy stuff from the rodeo here in Calgary, but so yeah, very distinct shape. Now, I've been convinced that there's been some kind of star fort in Calgary because supposedly the Mounties came out here in the 1870s and built a fort. Well, the Fort Calgary is right here. They're on the other side of the railroad tracks. Excuse me, it's right here. So it's part of this greater area, I reckon. And I'm just speculating. But it's the confluence of the Bow and the Elbow River. And the railroad comes right through here, and the track, and then just the very angular look of it. These are supposedly stables. This row of buildings is horse stables. Anyway, found that very interesting. Here's a sort of an elevated view of one of the gates to the Stampede grounds. This is from the 50s, though, 1956. But it gives you a nice shot of the size of the oval track and the grandstand. We'll have a better look at this. But just the myriad of structures. Yeah, they set up temporary tents in the midway with rides and vendors. And the quote-unquote Indian village sets up on the grounds, of course. They've always been a part of the Calgary Stampede. But, yeah, this sort of replica of a fort here with these big gates. Very interesting. This is all gone. This encampment has been moved way over to down by the Elbow River. But it's larger. And it's still by a main gate. It's just by the eastern gate. So this is the Elbow River, and this is taken from Scotsman Hill on the other side. This would be the southern bank, southern side of the Elbow River. This is supposedly, again, the rodeo grounds and some of the buildings. See some interesting structures back here we'll have a look at. But these supposedly are all stables, but they're arranged very interestingly because this is sort of a round building in the center, and these come out like spokes on an angle. It's unusual. But I said the railroad supposedly used to come through here, so maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know. I do not know. Cousin Vinny! Cousin Vinny over here. Cousin Vinny in the box. Good to see you, bud. How you doing? Good to see you for the Wild West show version of the live show here. Because, you know, you get Cousin Vinny, you're going to get some Frankie fingers, eh?
So now you know what I'm talking about with the whole New West Reset thing.
No.
What?
No.
What I said about Frankie Fingers. The Frankie Fingers and New West Reset are the same.
Wait, what? It's kind of another shot from the same sort of vantage point, just a slightly different angle. Again, apologies for how pickleated it is, but these photos are pre-WW1, so, and who knows how many times this has been, this is a copy of a copy of a copy. And it's pretty small, too, so, you know, small. It's very small. There you go. This gives you an idea of the crowds for the rodeo. There's the little partial shot of the grandstand there, and then these are the cheap seats where you're out in a blistering hot sun, so you got to bring your umbrella or parasol, I guess they would say. And everybody's got to rock a hat. Nary a cowboy hat in sight, though. Not seeing a cowboy hat. Maybe. No, there's a fedora. This fella? No. You get a bunch of these Great Gatsby hats. That's what I call them. I don't know what they're called. The ones that are like flat and round, and then it's flat on the top but round, but it's not a bowler because a bowler is round on top. Anyway, well, look, there's a top hat up here. Way up in the corner. Oh, ladies with flowers and dead birds in their hats, of course. There's three of them there. Hello, ladies. Howdy, ladies. Howdy. Welcome. Welcome to the Stampede. You can see the grandstand was pretty big. And again, a lot of these outbuildings, huge. During WW1, there was no rodeo, so they used it as training. That old song and dance, right? That's heavy in the narrative. Is old fairgrounds, old, you know, world exhibition or expo sites, or Dominion fairs here in Canada, the old sites, you know, like the C&E, the Canadian National Exhibition over in Toronto, Ontario. That was the first sort of Canada's version of the world exhibitions, the Dominion exhibitions, back in the 1870s. And later on, yeah, they trained troops there. Why you would train in the fairgrounds? I guess because there's a lot of open area. I don't know. So shot of some of the fanciness from the fairgrounds here, because this is Princess Patricia visiting the Stampede in 1912. All right. Fancy carriage there. That's the fancy kind, where you think it's going to be a two-wheeler, and oh, fooled you. We got this part with the other axle on there. Gotcha. So this is the backside of the old grandstand. Unfortunately, this old grandstand is gone. There's a new grandstand basically in the same spot, but way bigger. But this thing was huge in its time. 1912-ish. Like, this isn't even an annual thing yet. And Calgary has not hosted the aforementioned Dominion exhibition yet. Oh, very, very good. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for letting me know. That sounds good. Yeah, road trip to Drumheller, the Badlands in Alberta, or part of the Badlands. Anyway, back to this thing. Now, what's that cockamamie contraption? Oh, don't you worry about that, Bod. That was just something they used in the wintertime or to pull off crazy stunts during the Stampede. Back in the 19-teens and 20s. And Stampede being in the summertime, with the rodeo and the fair and all that, and the weather's nice, pleasant. What do you do with this big thing in the winter? Oh, you do cockamamie things like just do ski jumping off of it. They did that in the 20s. Sure, why not? These jackasses. Yee-haw! Cowboy by summer, ski jumper by winter. That's how we do it here in Cowtown, y'all. This cockamamie. This is nuts. I mean, it's sure, I guess. Why not? But wow, Now, this is kind of a funny building because it's labeled here as the Horse Show Building in Victoria Park. Victoria Park is the neighborhood that the rodeo grounds, the grounds they're on. The grounds. Here it says Victoria Arena, looking like an old repurposed dirigible air hangar, perhaps. Just saying. So it's a horse show building, but it's an arena. And it goes back a ways because here's it from a different angle. It looks to me like it's been repurposed, but this was part of the original structure. Was these towers on either side and this big, long Quonset, I guess, for lack of a better term, multi-storied Quonset. And this is an afterthought addition. These bozos came along and they added this. This is very interesting back here. Whatever, this little cupola with some kind of thingy on the top. Yeah, that's right. Eddie the Eagle, like 6 decades before Eddie the Eagle. Right? Hilarious. Good old Eddie the Eagle. And of course it had to burn down, but then it's the roller rink. So I don't know if it was one of these goofy buildings where they say, well, in the winter it was an ice skating rink, and in the summer it was a roller rink, and then later on it was, but they also used it for horse shows, and then later on it burnt down. Of course it burnt down. Burnt down in 1915. So I don't know. Horse show, arena, roller rink, all of the above, maybe. Jesse says it resembled our old National Guard building. Yeah, I see that too. It kind of looks a bit like an armory. Yeah, armory or National Guard. I think that, I mean, there's a stone and brick armory here in Calgary as well that's shaped like this, but then it has the big wall with the parapets all the way around it, and it has the big turrets in the front, looking very much like a castle. I mean, all it's missing is the bloody drawbridge, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like an old world airport, sort of. Yeah, like an airship hangar. That's kind of what I'm. Yeah, agricultural exhibits are part of the Stampede. So I mean, if it was the horse show, but I think it's older. I think it was repurposed, and they added this kind of stuff and said, yeah, we'll have horse shows in here. But I mean, I don't know. You have horse shows in there, you're gonna have to clean that place pretty good, because to then put in a roller rink. Some guy in the 1909 wants to bring his sweetheart roller skating. I guess that was a thing. I thought roller skating started in the 20s or 30s, maybe 40s, but apparently it's been around a long time. But anyway, we discovered that on a previous show. So it's a roller rink, skating rink, horse show building. Okay. Now this one I've always been kind of suspicious. It's always been sus to me. The corral, the old Stampede corral. Photo taken from the 50s. And again, this is the former quote-unquote Indian village. It's actually the indigenous folks from the nearby reserve, Blackfoot. They come and they do set up a legitimate camp, and they live on the grounds for for the 10 days, but they come about a day or two early. It takes them a couple days to set up and get everything all good to go there, bud, and set up, in a day or two to tear her down and pack her up. But yeah, I've always had this is obviously a much more recent photo. This place, I think, was here until the 70s, I want to say. Maybe the 80s. I'm not entirely sure. But this looks like it was an older structure that they kind of monkeyed around and blocked in some kind of opening here, I think. I think they gave this a fake foundation or a phony foundation here. I think they just put a new roof on the thing and facade at the front. And said, yeah, this is a Stampede rodeo and exhibition building. This is where we have a bunch of exhibits in here in the corral, or this is where we have the indoor rodeo events. It's an indoor corral, literally. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not entirely sure about this one, but it definitely looks like there's different stages or some facading. Looks like there's something funny going on here too. It's kind of a line here. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Of course, the streetcar, the trolley, the tram, the Calgary Municipal Railway went right into Victoria Park, which at one time was a beautiful city, and then they purposely let it turn into a slummy, crappy neighborhood. And all the old, beautiful Victorian and Edwardian homes, brick and sandstone, or even some of the wooden frame homes, they just got to be run down, condemned. Then, we're just going to buy up the land for pennies on the dollar, bulldoze everything, so we can expand the parking lots for the rodeo grounds. Of course, that old story of parking lots. We need more parking lots. This building was on the former Stampede rodeo grounds as well, in Victoria Park, and apparently this was the old steam power plant, built in 1911 and decommissioned in 1954. And then it was used by the Stampede for the chuck wagons. Now, it wasn't clear if it was chuck wagons, the actual wagons stored, or if it was the stables for the horses that pull the chuck wagons for the chuck wagon races. I'm not sure. But it definitely looks like some kind of older structure here. Maybe there is snow on the ground, so take that for what it's worth. But looks like there's perhaps potentially some low openings here. Very interesting old building. Something going on back here too. Vaughn in the box says, looks military. Yeah. I mean, it could be anything. It's just a very generic shape, but I think this was built on top of something here. It's a crummy picture, but I'm assuming this is sandstone, which we often see here, and then brick on top. But that's just an assumption on my part. So there's a great shot of the grandstand, and you can see over the years they expanded, the grandstand. Initially it was just, you know, one covered section this size with, again, with the cheap seats that are uncovered. But look at these buildings here in the foreground. No idea. These are obviously no longer there. I'm not even sure what hill this is. This might be like what's sort of where the Cemetery Hill area is now, about Spiller Road, kind of in there, I think. But yeah, these are just very interesting here in the foreground. In fact, this might even be this. It seems to have this similar dual ridge line along the roof there. I don't know. Again, I'm speculating here and here. So from the backside, interesting window openings. Looks like it could be an arched window with two portals. I don't know. Again, I love the juxtaposition of the Wild West. These are the Mounties, the Northwest Mounted Police, before they even became the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, but one and the same. You know, the red tunic guys, the cops, the Wild West frontier police, and, you know, in front of this massive structure with the big, huge, oversized, arched entranceways. Wings coming off the side of it. Again, something in the background here with a dome with a little thing on it. The industrial building on the fairgrounds, on the rodeo grounds. But if we pull back, we can actually see what this building is, and it's striking. I pulled back a little bit too far. Sorry there, Abe, but I love the juxtaposition of this too. These Victorian folk, you know, dressed, again, ladies with their big hats with the flowers and the dead birds, and the fellows with their hats, just sitting on the grassy hill here looking over the fairgrounds. You got teepees here, and then you got this in the background. And this. What in the Sam Steele's going on here? It's supposed to be a Wild West rodeo. There's supposed to be nobody here. Like 500 people were here, and then you got to be about 1,000 people at this point. No, sorry, 4,000 people. Well, that's this building right here. Will you look at this? Obviously no longer here. Why? Well, that had to go. It doesn't fit with the Wild West savage Indians. Look out now, they'll scalp you. And the dusty old buffalo trodden Wild West, it doesn't fit that narrative. Look at the houses in the background. Look at this place. Well, it's just my house. You want to go to the rodeo and afterwards come over for some flapjacks and Canadian bacon? Put some maple syrup on it, eh, partner? But look, you can see the time frame, the puffy sleeves and the corsets. Again, the hats with the birds and the flowers. I mean, this is glorious. This is a glass plate negative, so it's cracked. But I don't think these are Vanilla Skies. I reckon they ain't Nillard, because I can see it's like it's slowly faded. Doesn't just cut off, but you never know. It could be mistaken. I don't know. I'm just looking at it. The bandstand here too, by the way. And, you know, again, a lot of this stuff is temporary, but that's not temporary. That's a 2-story building with a big, massive dome on it. Get out of here, man. Cowboys need this. There's like stinky cow poop all over the place. You know what I mean? You got to watch out you don't step in some... Because, you know, it's cowboys and buffalo and whatnot, but look at this. It's huge. Yeah, that's right, Vaughn. And dirt everywhere. Part of the tree just giving the cowboy emoji because, yeah, I mean, you know, the cowboys built that, don't you see, to put so they could have their rodeo. Unfortunately, this text is very terrible. Industrial something building. It's like it says 19. No, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. That text is just too crappy. But you can see it's a beautiful building. I mean, this crappy wooden fence leaves a little bit to be desired. We'll just build that right up to the edge of the building there, bud. We won't make it all nice like it is here where it's all landscaped. Now, at this point, it's been found, and renovated, repurposed. It's now going to be for the Cowboys. It's from an old postcard. You can see Victoria Park with there's the grandstand. The rodeo is right here. This place was glorious, man. Glorious. There it is again. And then there's this back here again. You know, and all the pedways and the landscaping and you know what these are, little lights or something. I have no idea, man. There's electric in here. It's gone. It's all gone. Yeah, that's right. Definitely doesn't fit the narrative. So, yeah, so it's got to go. That's got to go. That's eventually got to go. But it could stay for a bit. But that's, no. The house, some of the houses back here, too. Yeah, get those out of here. They don't fit the rootin' tootin' Wild West narrative. Here's a postcard. Victoria Park was so beautiful that they made it into a postcard. This is 13th Avenue. Going eastbound, there's that Scotsman Hill that I talked about. Entrance to Exhibition Grounds, Calgary. Well, now we know what that building was. Well, it's just where you go in and buy your ticket. Stone building, at least by the postcard. Yeah. Big wide promenade streets. Dirt, still dirt, of course, but the paved curve and then this grassy section and then your sidewalk and then the huge lawn and then some bigger buildings and then, you know, houses and, you know, some estate homes with walls, whatever the Sam Steele, this big thing is back here, you know, it was lovely. And they just flatten everything. They get rid of this. It's a shame. It's a shame. This, I believe, yep, the last in the file. I don't usually like using these guys in their photos, but with that said, it's a legendary photo. But again, to leave you just with the juxtaposition of the rootin' tootin' Wild West cowboy on the saddle bronc, the bucking bronco, and the dusty Wild West with this glorious, almost looking like a Capitol building. some kind of old world building in the background. They just does not compute. Does not compute. You know what I'm saying? Not that these guys are a bunch of hicks. Farmers and ranchers are clever. I know, my granddaddy was a farmer. They got to figure stuff out because a lot of times they can't be running back and forth into town to be going getting all kinds of fancy doodads and thingamajigs to get their equipment working again. A lot of times it was just this belt broke. All right, well, we'll just take the one pulley and we'll cut it off and we'll make a bracket so we can move it closer. Then we'll repair the belt, but the repair will make the belt a bit shorter. So that's why we got to move that one pulley a little closer to take up the slack. Hell, we'll even put it on a sliding bracket where you can just tighten and loosen the thing. You know, kind of like how the generator or the alternator in your 1970s GMC car works. You know what I'm saying? They have to figure stuff like that out all the time. So not that they necessarily weren't smart enough or skilled enough to build this. It's just, if you're a cowboy, these guys, yeah, they're competing in the rodeo, but these are real cowboys. They work on ranches. They're farm hands. They're cow hands. They drive herds of horses or cattle to and from ranches to wherever, slaughterhouses, different grazing areas, all that stuff. Like real cowboy stuff. They don't have time to be messing around with this kind of stuff. They don't even need this kind of stuff. All they need is this wooden encircled area with some soft dirt. So when they try to break that horse, and if they get bucked off, they don't end up breaking their neck. So the rodeo did come out of actual real farm and ranch work, right? Roping cattle, wrestling a steer down. That's just so you can brand it. Roping the cattle. That's so you can brand it. Or if it gets out of the herd and wanders off your property, a fence has gone down or whatever. This is a real thing. You buy a horse, it might not be tame. You got to break the horse, get it used to somebody riding it, and it's going to try to get you off. And if it's really mean and ornery, it's going to try and stomp your guts out. But yeah, some of the other stuff is very much a created narrative. The whole Wild West, in terms of the spaghetti westerns of the Clint Eastwood era, or even going further back with the Duke there, partner. It's a terrible John Wayne impression, I know, but you get it. So yeah, farming and ranching and all that, yeah, that's absolutely legit. And there were pioneers that did come out here. But I think a lot of the stories and narratives were exaggerated. They came out and there was nothing, just flat prairie, so they had to build sod huts because there wasn't even enough trees to cut down. Really? So then how'd they make a fire to cook their food if there's no trees to cut down? Well, they got coal. Where would they get coal from? Well, there's a coal mine 50 miles out of town. So how'd they get that coal 50 miles? Well, they went once a month with their wagon into town to get the coal. Yeah, like it just... Meanwhile, there's stuff like this and more. Calgary, known as Sandstone City, because of all of the old world buildings. I've done tons of boots on the ground videos on my channel exploring some of these buildings. And I've done live streams where we've looked at some of these buildings. Luckily, a lot of them are still around, but some of them had to go. The Great Calgary Fire took care of a bunch. And, progress and Calgary being a boom town and then discovering oil took care of the rest. Just lucky that there's a few that lingered on somehow. They're still serving their repurposing. I was going to say their purpose, but I doubt it's their original purpose. So anyway, there you go. A few old photographs that supposedly of the old-timey rodeo grounds that a bunch of dusty cowboys competed in various events, bull riding, cattle roping, bronco busting, and then the rangeland derby or the chuck wagon races. But meanwhile, it had all of these glorious old world buildings and landscaped park areas with fountains and trees and all kinds of cockamamie stuff. So I'm wondering if there's a connection already with the Mounties and the Stampede and Fort Calgary and the rodeo grounds. I'm not wondering if there's a much deeper connection in that whole area that they whittled down to call Fort Calgary's here, and now the fairgrounds is there. I wonder if it was all one big fort. Because supposedly that's why the Mounties came out here to the Wild West, before the railroad, before anyone. The fur traders were out here, and they had to protect the fur trade. Like, all right. You're going to build a fort to protect some beaver and fox pelts, are you? Okay. Canadummy says, my sister lost a kidney from a horse kick. Ow, really? Oof. Oy, oy, oy. Yeah, that's not good. My uncle got kicked by a mule. It was okay-ish. I think it busted a couple of his ribs. Mighty Mouse in the box over on the Bumble, on the green fighting platform on Rumble. How you doing? Says these old photos are great to see. Yes, thank you. A lot of them actually, when I was researching for the show, I knew that building had existed. I had seen one photo of it, and it was the one that was the postcard. You know, the one that looks like a state capitol building. But I didn't know what it was called, so it made it tougher to find. And finally, I did find the darn thing. I was able to find a few more photos. So a lot of the photos of that building, that huge structure, what was it, the industrial building or industrial exhibition building or whatever they said it was? I mean, that was, when I found them a few nights ago, that was the first time I'd seen them. I was like, holy moly. I don't know why they make it so hard. Well, I mean, I know why they make it hard to find, but we're going to find the photos eventually. So, I don't know why they make such a big kerfuffle about hiding the darn things. But anyway. Yeah, it's tough to hide that, right? It's tough to hide about 5 or 6 buildings on the rodeo ground. Like of all the places to pick that have your rodeo, we're going to have it here. We're going to have the rodeo here. And all of a sudden these 4 guys show up that just, they're all these land and cattle barons. Most of their stories are a little shaky to say the least. Just left town and came back with a big wad of cash and just bought up all the land. Oh, where'd you get that money? I found it. Found it in a hole. Like, give me a break. Anyway, I think I'm getting ready to wind it down here a little bit. Before I do I have some wacky stuff? I think I might have some funny wacky stuff here to share with you. Or did I share it all already? The cowboy memes and whatnot. I think I shared it early. Yeah. There was some stuff, but some stuff's not suitable for all audiences. If you see what I'm saying? Anyways, what's going on with the channel? So as alluded to earlier from Cousin Vinny over here, potential road trip coming up shortly to Drumheller. Part of me probably just wants to kind of skip the whole official tourist narrative dinosaur go to the museum thing. I mean, I've been there tons of times, but if you haven't been, or if you haven't been for a long time, you want to go, Vinny, to the Museum of Paleontology, sorry, the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology, excuse me. I have to get that straight. Then by all means, we can go. But I'd like to check out all the stuff that looks like it's been cooked out, melted out. Maybe check out the old coal mine, because there's a lot of old-timey tech littered about. And then they also have an old section of town, the old Main Street, with a bunch of old buildings. And I've never seen that. And I've been to Drumheller a couple of dozen times. Yeah, nah. You don't want to learn about the bunch of dead dinosaur bones that they found there, Vinny? It's all them they're dinosaurs. Apparently, in prehistoric times, in the Paleolithic and Jurassic and Uber-terrific eras, when giant lizards roamed the earth, gajillion years ago, this was a hotbed for their activity. They came here to, I don't know, hang out, do dinosaur stuff, and then something happened and they all died, and then we found their bones now. It couldn't possibly be potentially dragons and griffins. If you go back far enough, they don't talk about dinosaurs. What, the 1870s, the first time somebody found a dinosaur bone sticking out of the ground, supposedly? No, it's just before that. They were calling them probably most likely what they really were, at least in my opinion. What we now know is dragons and griffins. That's why they're all over statues and flags and coats of arms. You don't see dinosaurs. You don't see a T-Rex or a I don't know, a duck-billed dinosaur on a coat of arms. And some coat of arms are new enough where they overlap the time of where their archaeologists and paleontologists are reassembling dinosaur skeletons and naming them. But nope. But they have griffins and dragons all over, and carvings on buildings. And you get the drift. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. That's just me. So yeah, he says I'd get into trouble in Darwin. You'd have us removed from the premises, would you? You've been trespassed. No longer welcome in the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology, fellows. Get to stepping. Hit the bricks. It's a little bit of info for everybody who's interested. Look up Ted Holden's talk regarding dinosaurs' inability to stand up under current day theory of gravity. Yeah, I mean, they do have a little touristy. I bet you. I mean, there are. I've seen photos, but I've never been there. And again, that goes to show nobody ever goes to and just looks at the old town stuff. You're right. They go to the hoodoos, right? The crazy rock formations with the caves up above. And you're not allowed up in there anymore. When I was a kid, you used to be able to go and walk around up in there. Now they have it all fenced off with viewing platforms because assholes knocked the rock that was balancing on the other rock, like in the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner, this dealio, and they were knocking them off. So, a couple of knuckleheads ruined it for everybody else. Thanks. But yeah, most people go to the museum, the hoodoos, maybe the coal mine. The coal mine's kind of like when we used to go to the coal mine, you weren't even allowed in there. It was decrepit and dangerous. Now they've got it all fixed up and they do tours of sections of it. You can't go in the mine, but you can kind of go up in the old machines and stuff now. So they've fixed it up a little bit. But yeah, I've been there. Every time a relative comes from out of town and wants to see stuff, you take him to Banff, you take him to Drumheller. But the downtown, old-timey part of town. I'm sure it's touristy-ish because they know there's going to be tourists there anyways. So there's going to be a dinosaur burger, but it's going to be on the main floor of some old world brick and sandstone building because there's a buttload of sandstone around there. If they had coal mining, I bet you they had sandstone mining or quarrying, I should say. So yeah, stuff like that, folks. Road tours. Cousin Vinny and I talking out loud, trying to figure stuff out. Kicking rocks and turning over stuff and seeing what's what. Hooking our peepers onto all kinds of shenanigans. And of course, continue to do boots on the ground here in the city. I'll revisit some old favorites now that I've got better equipment, but continuing to discover new spots. For the next week, it is going to be Stampede-ish themed, Wild West cowboy-ish themed, just because, you know, like I said, it is a bunch of kind of, a lot of it's made up nonsense or exaggerated stuff, but again, as an Eastern cat originally, I kind of dig the Wild West thing, the whole cowboy thing. And when people behave themselves, it's a pretty safe, fun, good time. You know, you get the rides and you get to check out the exhibits on the grounds. And, you know, you get to check out the latest farm implements and you check out a cattle auction, stuff like that. Go on the Midway. Eat some, I don't know, corn dogs and cotton candy. I don't know. That's a good time. But I can certainly see why a lot of locals are like, yeah, I get out of town. I take my vacation during Stampede. I don't come back till about a week after it's over. I mean, I sort of get it. So again, as a reminder, every Wednesday, vintage footage up on the channel for you, old-timey video, set to music. Generally speaking, like 80-20 rule, Canadian content. You know, I like to put Canada out there, being a crazy knucklehead my own self. So a lot of people don't think of stuff in Canada like, oh, I don't know, like rodeos in Canada or even cowboys in general. And I surprise myself sometimes with what I find, even with just a little bit of cursory poking around. Speaking of poking around, that's where you get your boots on the ground every Friday, where I poke around some of the old-timey, old-world buildings or suspected shenanigan buildings here in the city. And then back here every Sunday for the live show. So as mentioned at the top of this show as well, the vintage footage for this Wednesday will be coming up Wednesday morning, Mountain Time, 7 a.m., so a little later. But it'll be coming up as a premiere so we can watch it together and have a nice little chat in the box. It's about a half hour. And it's an early 1960s tourist video of Calgary. And it focuses quite a bit on the Stampede. And it's kind of hokey and cheesy and kind of fun. So I thought we'd have a look at that. I got one more old world building, cowboy rodeo-ish themed building I got to try to find for Boots on the Ground Friday. And I think I know what I'm going to cover. And then we'll see you back here again next Sunday for the Rodeo Roundup show as we wind up the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede for 2025. Hey, do you want to have a quick look around the exciting chuck wagon races real quick? What do you think? I'll probably get YouTube slap on the wrist for this. Maybe? I don't know. Let me just see. Just hold tight here real quick. Just see if I can just find a quick clip. Just to give you an idea of the Chuck Wagon race, the Rangeland Derby as they call it. We call it the Chucks race. I've been watching a couple of the highlights and see if I can find one here. That this looks like it's somebody's taking it with their phone off of the big screen on the grounds, I think, maybe. But let's see what we've got here. I think the sound on it is terrible, absolutely terrible. So we're not going to be able to Not going to be able to hear anything, I don't think. Okay, they're just getting ready to go here. They're lining up. We have a false start. What the hell's going on here? Yeah, you're like, yeah, real exciting. Oh, okay, here we go. They're in position. Waiting for the horn. There's the horn, and they're off. So you can see it's pretty fast paced, and they've got a team of horses. Now, of course, the chuck wagons are designed for speed, but it's a very simple design. It's very dangerous. These guys aren't wearing helmets. They're not wearing a seatbelt, as you will see, because a lot of them start bouncing up and down in their seats as they're giving the yeah, come on now, yeah, you know, egging them on, you know. Wearing a dang cowboy hat, of course. Coming down the final stretch. It does happen, Hippie, but it's fairly rare. There are some crashes. Could be. See, they're not strapped in. There's no harness. There's no. It's a wooden wagon. The wooden wheels. Curtis in the box. Those wooden wheels. Yeah, man. Yeah, sort of like with the chariot race. It's basically a Wild West take on the chariot race. Yeah, good call. You know, this being the circus ring, right? The chariot ring. But yeah, it is pretty amazing. I don't know. It's just it's one of those things. It's a thrill. It's thrilling, right? Because it is slightly dangerous. Oh, they get all the goodies. They get the bag of oats. They get the carrots. They get the apples. They get a sugar cube. Maybe even a lady horse. So there you go. Real cowboy stuff. Sort of. They're probably not doing that on ranches these days. Riding a bucking horse? Yes. Lassoing cattle and horses? Sure. Steer wrestling them down or tying them down so you can brand them. Or now a lot of times they do the ear tag thing. But yeah, But the chuck wagon racing thing, I think that's a completely made up thing. But it's a pretty good time. Pretty good time. But just like anything else, it's dangerous. Yeah, horse racing, horsepower to the max. Yeah, team of 4, right? So it's a lot. But yeah, just like horse racing, you know, it's not too uncommon. You get the injuries. Like I said, with the chucks, there can be some crashes. It's the first thing people ask. Oh, I hope none of the horses get hurt. I hope none of the drivers fall under the horse hooves or the wheels of their own wagon or the other 3 wagons on the track. God forbid. And get runded over and trampled to death. No, people never ask that. They just go, wow, that's fast. I hope the horses are okay. God forbid the human is okay. Is that cowboy all right? He's not even strapped in. That's why I like to drive home. There's no seatbelt. He's not strapped in. There's no harness. It's not like a stock car or you doing a quarter mile on the drag strip. It's not a funny car. Okay. It's not football. The bull riders, yes, they wear a helmet because the bulls have horns and the bulls weigh 2,000 pounds and they get them riled up. But even the saddle bronc and the bareback bronc, you know, the saddleless bronco busting, I think those guys, they still rock the cowboy hat. Some of them maybe wear a vest. I don't know. Sure, the people have a choice. It's a good point. The people do have a choice. But, you know, it's part of the cowboy culture that's been pushed big here since, well, really since the 1870s, but really the 1880s is when they really started kicking it off. And then by the, 1910, 1912, it was in full swing, legit thing to the point where it became annual in the 20s, and that was it. So it's so ingrained in the culture now that, even sensitive people and animal lovers, they can hand wave away a lot of the, I hope the horses are okay type of stuff, or all that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I don't watch the calf roping competition. I'm not a fan of seeing this poor calf let out of the gate, running to beat all hell. And there's a man on a horse chasing it, and he lassos it around the neck, and it comes to a complete stop, like the dog in the foghorn, leghorn, rooster, Bugs Bunny cartoon. I say, you're at the end of your leash, boy. And then they grab its legs and hog tie the poor thing. I'm not a fan of that. The bull riding and the horse bucking and bronco stuff and all that, that's kind of cool. I don't know. It's just what it is. But if you're not into it, I'm not going to make fun of you. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Some stuff that other people love, and I'm just like, get that away from me. I don't want to have anything to do with that stuff. Where would you say the most cowboy state is in Canada? Like the most cowboy province? Probably Alberta. I would say probably Alberta. Saskatchewan is fairly cowboy-ish, but less cattle ranching and more farming. We have more than our fair share of corn and barley and wheat and canola farming here in Alberta, but Saskatchewan takes it to whole other levels. But, I mean, there's cowboys that compete in the Calgary Stampede from everywhere, actually. Not just all over Alberta, but from British Columbia all the way out to Ontario, even Quebec sometimes, down into the States, especially the cowboy American states, Wyoming, Utah, Texas, Arkansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, all of them there, Nevada, California even, Washington, Idaho, Oregon, anywhere where there's cattle ranches or a lot of horses. Yeah, it's there's cowboys that come from, and cowgirls too, by the way. They enter a couple of competitions. One of them is a form of calf roping called free roping, I think. It's where it doesn't yank its neck. It's just once the lasso goes, the rope pulls itself off of or she lets go or something. And the barrel racing, which is super fast, where they weave in and out of these barrels set up in the corral. And horses can move, baby. But yeah, they come from, heck, Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a big thing. It's a really big thing. Ippy Shake says, the only Canadian singer I know is Michael Bublé. Oh, you know way more than you think. And I'm talking more than just Perry Como. Of course, you know Celine Dion. Come on, you know Celine Dion. You know Shania Twain? She's a Canadian country singer at that. And she was the parade marshal for this year's Stampede Parade. The lovely, talented Shania Twain. Again, I'm not a big country music guy, but more power to her. Lots of hits. A lot of people got turned on to that top 40 radio-friendly country-ish music. Kenna Dummy says Morris, Manitoba has the second biggest stampede. Yeah, I mean, all the prairies that's cowboy turf. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. I think just here we have a lot of cowboys because we still have, we have cattle ranches. Like, it's just ridiculous, the amount of cattle ranches that are out here. Some of the most cattle here in the whole world. It's ridiculous. Massive ranches with thousands of head of cattle. And they still do like cattle drives where you got cowboys on horses. Yeah, no. Yeah, get on there now. Getting them from, one grazing area to another. And sometimes they got to go down some country dirt road for a couple of miles so they can open the gates and corral them into the next graze land. It's nuts. Sometimes they herd them across rivers or creeks and stuff too. Yeah, it's pretty plus, it's just that whole cowboys, Indians, buffalo, Wild West narrative, right? It's just what we've been taught. The whole narrative for North America is the further west you went, supposedly the more wild and untamed and undiscovered it was. And they just forget that people were already, there was already a bunch of people already here for a really long time out in the prairies or in the American Midwest and on the West Coast too. Like hundreds of thousands of people at least. Towns and villages and settlements and all kinds of hamlets and yeah, you name it. Different cultures and entire different systems. I know, that's fine. That's fine. So that whole narrative. Anne Murray, there's another one that Hippie knows. Anne Murray. I know you've heard of Anne Murray. Anne Murray's another one. Snowbird apparently is her nickname. Because of Canada. And she's a lady. Snowbird. We're so clever up here, eh? With our politically correct double entendre. Anyway. I think that's going to do it. Until Wednesday, we shall see you in the chat for the premiere of your vintage footage. Kind of hokey, cheesy, but fun tourism video from 1962 about Calgary and the Stampede. So that'll be Wednesday, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. Friday, boots on the ground. We'll see you back here next week to wind down the Stampede with one last little Wild West or cowboy or rodeo themed show of some sort. So that's going to seal the deal here for Frankie. New West Reset, New West Reset Live, episode 127, The Big Four, Robber Barons of the Old West. Again, as a reminder, links below for everything that we covered and how you can get a hold of a fella. Thank you to everyone for all of your continued support. Welcome to all our new friends to the channel. Really, really appreciate that. Thanks for commenting and, joining along with the shenanigans around here. So until the next one, take care out there and have yourselves a good one. All right, everyone? Y'all come back now. You hear?
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.